This man right here is quarterback Steve Bono. You might remember a lot about Bono, like the fact that he was a longtime backup on the San Francisco 49ers. The fact that he was a darn good quarterback at one point in time for the Kansas City Chiefs, even making it to the Pro Bowl during the 1995 season when the Pro Bowls somewhat meant something. And the fact that he had one of the greatest touchdown runs in NFL history, when he scored a rushing touchdown from 76 yards out against the Arizona Cardinals, despite the fact that he's slow as molasses and runs with the grace of a wounded gazelle through the Serengeti. But what you might not realize is that Bono, to some extent, got his start playing during the replacement games in 1987 when the regular players were on strike. Bono was asked to fill in for the Pittsburgh Steelers during the Scab games, and over those 3 games, he threw 5 touchdown passes and was able to parlay that into a career that lasted beyond the strike and beyond those 3 games. Bono was one of the few quarterbacks who took advantage of the work stoppage, alongside guys like Kyle Mackey and John Fourcade, who, quote-unquote, got their start during the strike and impressed enough people that they turned it into more than just a temporary career. Bono was one of the successful quarterbacks. This man right here, however, he was not. This man right here is Dave Walter, and in 1987, he was tasked by head coach Sam Weish and the Cincinnati Bengals front office to be the man in charge of leading the team through the tumultuous period. Walter came off the bench in the first game against the San Diego Chargers, and the Bengals lost 10-9, in a game where Walter went 2 for 8, completing 25% of his passes for 1 yard, which is even worse than that if you want to go with net yards passing, as from a net yardage standpoint, seeing as he took a 10-yard sack at one point in the game, he actually finished that game against the Chargers with -9 net passing yards. This meant that Boomer Esiason, who was protesting and was not watching the Bengals play, actually had more passing yards inside the stadium on that day than Dave Walter did. Still, despite this atrocious performance, where Walter finished with a passer rating of exactly 39.6, Walter was asked to be the starting quarterback for Cincinnati's next game against the Seattle Seahawks. Walter's first ever start in the NFL was going to come on the road at the Kingdome. As for how this start went, well, it was a mixed bag. On one hand, the Bengals won the game, taking it 17-10 to get back to 500 and win their first game with the replacement players. On the other hand, they won in spite of Walter and not because of him. Walter did not complete a single pass in the fourth quarter of the contest, and on the final 6 drives of the game, he completed just 1 pass. Keep in mind that the Bengals did not score a single point in the second half, so it's not like they were doing other things well and just decided not to mess with the winning formula. In fact, Walter seemed to try his best to cost the Bengals the contest. Seattle genuinely could not do anything throughout the day, but Walter tried his best to get the Seahawks back into the game when all hope was lost, because he fumbled the ball not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5 times. It should be almost impossible to fumble the ball 5 times in one game, but as you're going to see, Dave Walter found a way. Granted, 2 of the fumbles would be pretty harsh to put on him, seeing as it was a botched exchange with the running back on a handoff. And I'm not sure if that's on the running back or if it's on Walter. Maybe a bit of column A, maybe a bit of column B. Still, for the other 3 fumbles, there is no debating or sugarcoating it. The fumbles were entirely on him. And it's not like he was hit by an offensive lineman or was trying to out-juke a defender in the second level and was stripped of the football. On all 3 of his true fumbles, he just dropped the ball right off the snap. The center gave him the ball, and he played hot potato with it, to the point where you didn't know whether the play was a run or a pass because Walter fumbled it that early. When the Bengals won the game and Walter took the final kneel down, it might have been the most stressful final kneel down in NFL history, because based on how the game was going, you genuinely didn't know if Walter was even going to get the snap cleanly, even if it was under center. At the time of the game, Walter's 5 fumbles set an NFL record for most fumbles by one player in a single game. And may I remind you, of the 5 fumbles, not one of them was caused by a defender or by someone else hitting him. All 5 fumbles were self-inflicted. The fastest way to get a one-way ticket out of the NFL is to not treat the ball well and to not know how to hold on to the football. And it was very clear that despite the winning effort, that the man you've been watching this entire time, Dave Walter, did not know how to do that. So, after the game, Walter was asked about the ball security issues. And look, players have had bad games all the time. Granted, maybe they don't fumble 5 times in one game, but everybody has an off day. You can't necessarily afford an off day if you're on borrowed time as it is, seeing as your job is 100% going to be taken once the players return from a strike, and there's no way you're starting over Boomer Esiason once he comes back. But if you play it off well in the press, you might be able to buy yourself some time, or at the very least, not make things significantly worse for you. If Walter said, there is no excuses for that, and I had to take better care of the ball, that's 5 fumbles too many, and I'm going to be working like crazy to get the timing down with the center so that we don't have that happen again, then you could brush it off. If Walter said, a lot of us are brand new, and we're all trying to get our timing down, and we're all trying to get to know each other, and I'm not making excuses for it, but I'm confident that this won't happen again as we gel better with each other, then you could brush it off. However, Dave Walter decided to say something absolutely insane that pretty much punched his way out of the NFL as soon as the strike was over, and assured the fact that Walter would never get another chance in the league or in professional football after this was done. Because as Walter said about the fumbling issues, the crowd in here was really loud. The noise in here distracted some of the snap counts. Seriously. Dave Walter was blaming the fumbling issues on the fact that the crowd was way too loud and he was distracted because of it. And that's what caused him to just drop the ball and fumble it 5 times, setting an NFL record. So you would expect this crowd to be the greatest crowd of all time. You're expecting this crowd to be an NFL record crowd when it comes to decibel levels and attendance. The loudest crowd in NFL history was when the Kansas City Chiefs hit 142 decibels at Arrowhead Stadium in 2014, surpassing the threshold of pain. I'm assuming the Chiefs broke the record set by the Seahawks in this game in 1987 by what Dave Walter said. I'm assuming the Kingdome was packed to the brim with a standing room only overflow crowd, and that this was the highest attended game in NFL history. And that's why Walter was so rattled by the noise, akin to the Giants-Seahawks game from 2005. But here's the thing that makes this already absurd excuse even more absurd, and makes it the topic of this video nearly 4 decades later. Want to know what the attendance was during this game? Want to know how many people were here making this noise that was too loud for a quote-unquote NFL quarterback to handle? I'll let NBC play-by-play man Mel Proctor take it away and reveal the figure.
31,739 here at the Kingdome today. Last week, the Seahawks and the Dolphins drew 19,448.
Seriously. 31,739. The crowd was less than 32,000 people. The Kingdome wasn't even 50% full. This was the second smallest crowd in Seahawks history, only larger than Seattle's game against the Dolphins the week before during the strike. And apparently, this was the crowd that got to Walter and just caused him to drop the ball over and over again without any defenders in the same area code as him. Which, yeah. You can see how absurd this might sound if you're getting rattled by crowd noise from a crowd of 32,000 in the freaking National Football League. Granted, Walter did go to a smaller college, playing at Michigan Tech, a Division II school, where he was definitely not playing in front of 32,000 people a game. So it's not like he's saying this having played his college ball at Notre Dame or Ohio State or anywhere like that. But it's still an insane thing for an NFL quarterback to openly say. If you're trying to win a job in this league and make the most of your opportunity, you can see how saying, "I dropped the ball because the crowd of over 31,000 people was too loud," might not be the best thing to say, right? When the National Football League and the American Football League merged in 1970, it was a mandate by Commissioner Pete Rozelle that every team played in a stadium that held at least 50,000 people. From 1973 on, if you could not sell out your stadium, which had to see at least 50,000 people, the game could not be shown in the home market, as it was blacked out. And spoiler alert, a lot of markets did not have trouble with this, as they sold out every game. And the year before the strike, in 1986, there were 233 games played across the regular season and the postseason in the NFL. Of those 233 games, a grand total of 7 of them had an attendance less than 31,739, as in the attendance at the Bengals Seahawks game where Walter was complaining about the crowd being too loud. You can see those games on the side of your screen. That meant that 97% of the games had a crowd larger than that, and quite comfortably, I might add, as the average attendance across regular season and postseason play in 1986 was in the ballpark of 60,000 fans, so roughly double what the Bengals Seahawks game brought in. If you're auditioning for an NFL gig and you were struggling to deal with the crowd noise in front of a half-empty stadium that's not even close to what an NFL game is like, how are you going to be expected to deal with an actual NFL crowd? Blaming the crowd is always an interesting strategy, but to blame it when the Kingdome was a ghost town? Bold strategy, Cotton. It's like a singer getting stage fright and wanting to audition for American Idol in its heyday. The singer wants to go on Idol because they want to make a career for themselves and become a pop star. A couple of days before the audition, the singer decides to get some practice in and decides to play in an open mic night at a random bar in front of 15 strangers. The performance goes terribly. The singer's palms are sweating, mom's spaghetti, and the singer hits some bum notes and forgets the words to the song. The singer then says afterward that the performance went terribly because they were scared because there were so many people there and they weren't able to think properly because of the size of the crowd. And you're trying to get on American Idol? What do you think the crowds are going to be like? If you can't handle a crowd of 15 strangers, what makes you think you can handle that? That's exactly what this was like with Dave Walter. That's exactly what this was like with the man you've been watching this entire time. If you're having trouble doing something as simple as holding on to the football because you're too rattled by the crowd noise, and the crowd is on the smaller side and isn't even remotely comparable to what an actual NFL game is like, then I can't even imagine what you're going to be like in an actual NFL game. You might fumble on every snap. The funniest part is that Walter was drafted in 1987 by the New York Giants, and the New York market might be the most ruthless media market in the country. If I could go back in time, I'd make it so that Walter makes the roster and plays a game at Veterans Stadium against the Philadelphia Eagles and deals with the noise of Philly fans in a sold-out stadium at the Vet just to see what the hell happens and if he could finish a drive without turning the ball over. It's going to come as no surprise to you that after the strike was done, this man, Dave Walter, never played another down in the NFL. Shocker, I know. Turns out, coaches like quarterbacks who know how to hold onto the ball and aren't rattled by the equivalent of what is a rustling of leaves. I'm not saying that if Walter kept his mouth shut and just said a generic, boring response in the press conference, that he goes on and has a 15-year career in the league. That was, quite frankly, never going to happen for a quarterback out of Michigan Tech. But this definitely didn't help this case. If you could talk your way out of the NFL with one response and show how mentally unfit you are and how soft you are to play in this league, Dave Walter found a way to do that on this day in 1987. Because on this day in 1987, Dave Walter gave a whole new meaning to being unable to tune out the noise. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name of the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.